All right, welcome back to Mr. PL's with Calculus. This is day 12 of Unit 0, and we're going to start off with some identity questions, similar to how we ended up on the last video. So now, the first one, 1 minus cosine squared of x is end up being sine squared of x, and secant squared of x minus 1 is tangent squared of x. Okay, so that's just using those trig identities. Now, if I'm going to solve this, what I can do is I can turn them both into sines and cosines. So sine squared of x is still sine squared of x over 1, all divided by tangent squared of x, which would be sine over cosine, or sine squared of x over cosine squared of x. Now, the way of solving this is to divide by simply changing the multiplication. So leave change change, so this becomes sine squared of x over 1 multiplied by, flip this around, becomes cosine squared of x over sine squared of x. That's a squared. Okay, so now we have sine squared of x. Both can be reduced, and you end up just getting cosine squared of x as the answer for that identity. All right, so now getting into it. So these are those very important ones that you need to memorize. So 0 degrees, if you're looking at a unit circle, so anything at 0 degrees, height of 0, so cosine will be to the right 1. 0 divided by 1 is still 0. If you're at 30 degrees right here, so sine of 30 degrees is 1/2, the other one's square root of 3 over 2. And then this divided by this is going to be square root of 3 over 3. So these are just ones that you need to memorize. Now, I told you in the last video that I always memorize that sine of 30 degrees is 1/2, and then I know that the other one, this is going to be the opposite of this, right? Because it's 60 degrees and 30 degrees is literally the same triangle. And my way of remembering tangent is this one's square root of 3 over 3, and this one's just square root of 3 for 60 degrees. And this one has more 3's in it because it goes with 30 degrees. That's my way of remembering which one is which. Now these, if you remember on the last video, are both square root of 2 over 2. And anything divided by itself is going to equal 1, because that's what tangent is, sine divided by cosine. 60 degrees, remember, is going to be the exact same answers as 30 degrees. It's just going to be in a reverse order. So this went here and this went here. 90 degrees, which is straight up, is going to have a height of 1. It's going to be left or right nothing, and 1 divided by nothing is not possible, so that's undefined. Okay, so getting into it, so we're doing some solving. You have to know these, and you can reference these as much as you need to, but you really should know these by heart, or be able to figure them pretty quickly in your head. So it says sine of theta equals this answer. Now keep in mind that this is all students take calculus. There's going to be 2 answers to each one of these questions. It says, what angle, sine of what angle equals this answer? Well, sine of 60 degrees equals this answer, but when is the height negative? So that would be down here and down here for 60 degrees. So that's pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 3, that'd be 4 pi over 3. And the other answer would be, let's see, 5 pi over 3. It's the very next 60 degree statement. All right, so for what I'm going to do for each one of these, I'm just going to draw my little illustration, and that's my way of showing my work. So that's all students take calculus. All right, so there's actually only going to be one answer. This cosine of what angle is equal to 1. The only place where it's going to be a positive 1 is to the right-hand side. So that would be from 2 pi. Well, 0 degrees, anything that's coterminal to that will also be an answer. So that's going to be 2 pi. So if you go 1 full rotation, yes, that's going to be to the right 1, the most it can possibly be. Tangent of theta equals 1. Remember, that's going to be 45-degree angle. Keep in mind that tangent is both positive in the first and the third quadrant, so that means the answers will be pi over 4. That's a 45-degree angle in the first quadrant, and that's 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi over 4 would be in the third quadrant. And those are your 2 answers. All right, for the next question, now this is the very same question. The only difference is we have to sort of rearrange things a little bit here. So that's going to cancel out there. So sine squared of theta equals 1/2. Next thing I would do is square root both sides. Square root of sine squared is sine. And then this is square root of 1 over square root of 2. And I would rationalize that, multiplying top and bottom by square root of 2 over 2, and that gives me sine of theta equals square root of 2 over 2. Now, once again, this is one that's on that you should have memorized. So sine of 45 degrees is square root of 2 over 2. So that's pi over 4. So I need to ask myself, when is sine positive, either in the first or the second quadrant? So the two answers are pi over 4, that's a 45-degree angle in the first quadrant. That'd be 2 pi over 4, that'd be 3 pi over 4 is the 45-degree reference angle in the second quadrant. All right, so for this next one, it says solve for theta. First thing I notice is that I can factor out tangent. So tangent of theta multiplied by tangent of theta would be tangent squared of theta, and then minus 1 equals 0. Now that I've got it factored, what I would do is take each factor and set it equal to 0. So tangent of theta equals 0. This one's going to be a little bit easier. When does tangent equal 0? That would be sine divided by cosine, so it would have to be cosine. So it'd have to be, sine would have to be a height of 0. So that would be at 2 pi. So 2 pi or 1 pi. Those are the two places that have a sign of 0, and 0 divided by anything is still going to be 0. So there's those two answers, and over here we have tangent of theta minus 1 equals 0. So add 1 to both sides. When does tangent of theta equal 1? And that would be a 45-degree angle. So now I ask myself, when is tangent going to be positive? And that would be in the first and the third quadrant. All right, so our two answers here are going to be pi over 4. That's going to be in the first quadrant. So 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi over 4 would be in the third quadrant. And there's your two answers right there. All right, I'm going to do just one more example, and this one example is going to be for using substitution. Now, when you look at this, it might not be so obvious, but this is really like, this is a trinomial, right? And if we take out sine of theta and call sine of theta x, so then let's just substitute x in for sine of theta. So that would be 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. Now looking at this, we got a simple algebra 1 that we can factor, right? Because 2 times 1 is 2. I'm looking for a factor of 2 that also adds up to negative 3. So that's negative 2 times negative 1, actually. So there we go. So we have x minus 2 times x minus 1 equals 0. This is the same thing as this. And then I have to, I have to divide. Forgot, I have to divide by the leading coefficient. Sorry, so then that gives me x minus 1 times 2x minus 1. Now, if this makes a fraction, you just slide the coefficient up in, slide the denominator up into the coefficient spot. So that's just my way of factoring with a leading coefficient. Now, there's other ways of doing it as well. Just know that this is the same thing as this. Now I can go back and plug back in sine of theta for x. So that's sine of theta minus 1 equals 0, and 2 times sine of theta minus 1 equals 0. All right, now it's just a matter of solving for each one separately. So add 1 to both sides, and I would say sine of theta equals 1, and the only place that has a height of 1 would be 90 degrees, which would be pi over 2. So there's only one solution for this, because that's literally the only place on a unit circle is straight up, is the only place that's going to have a height of 1. Now over here, so we add 1 to both sides, we get 2 sine of theta equals 1, divide both sides by 2. When does sine of theta equal 1/2? And that's that special one that I always refer to. That's 30 degrees, or pi over 6. Is one of the answers. Pi over 6. Now, sine can also be positive in the, not just the first, but also in the second. So that's 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. 5 pi over 6 is the other answer. So 2 solutions because there's 2 places where sine can be positive. All right, I'm going to stop it right there. Thanks again for watching, and have a wonderful day.